It's a new day, a new chapter. The healing starts now.
Are we reaching a critical point in biblical prophecy? Are we on the verge of what Jesus warns will be the beginning of the end?
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Bradley.
And I'm Lourdes Duarte. We begin with our top story here tonight. Illinois will become the first state in the nation to eliminate pretrial cash bail.
That's just one part of this massive 700-page law that Governor Pritzker put his signature on.
I want to encourage you on today. God bless you. I want to encourage you on today. I want you to tune in to the voice of God and tune out the voice of the enemy. See, the deception that is being flooded into the lands all over the place is the cry of the Antichrist, the cry of Adam. It is the voice of the enemy crying injustice, injustice, using crooked justice to get your way, to have your way because of selfish goals and ambitions.
Jesus explains that evil will continue to increase and expand. During this same time, the love that believers share will decrease to a point of non-existence. How? There are those who have been given seats of authority, who began opening the faucet of wickedness during the pandemic and the riots. That's nothing compared to what is coming this January 2023. There is going to be a release, an outpouring of violence and crime that will increase. It will spread across the nations of the world. We must ask ourselves these vital questions. What do the border crises and the reckless release of violent criminals have in common?
We are joined right now by the Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Christopher Olivares. Lieutenant Olivares, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks very much for being here. What do you think it's going to mean when you see Title 42 go away? Texas DPS is already working on a number of other problems on the southern border, like human smuggling, like drug smuggling coming in. Your thoughts on reversing Title 42 and what it will mean at the border?
Good morning, Maria. Again, thanks for having me on. So what we're going to see is complete chaos. And we talked about this really last week when I was talking with you. And I had mentioned the numbers that we're already at well over 800,000 just for the first 5 months of the fiscal year. And now we're already going to hit 1 million after these 6 months are complete. That is just goes to show you that this border crisis continues to escalate compared to last year, when we thought last year were historic numbers and decades that we have never seen. We are on track right now. If the way we're going right now, by the end of this fiscal year, we're going to hit well over 2 million encounters along our southwest border.
The enemy is using injustice. Same thing that he used to negotiate Adam and Eve out of Eden. Do not allow the enemy to cause you to exchange your peace and your fellowship with God by crying injustice, joining in with the culture of the land, saying that because of this is why I can't do this, or it was because you did this, or you gave me this. This is the reason why I fail. This is the reason why I fail. And this is the same thing, the same tactic that Satan has used throughout the generations.
Are these events connected and orchestrated by the devil? A physical pandemic came upon us out of nowhere. It rapidly spread around the world and decimated the church. Could this be the start of a spiritual pandemic? Will it spread around the world as rapidly as the pandemic? Is this the gross darkness prophesied by Isaiah? Could this be the fuse that the devil ignites, to begin the lawlessness that tries to overcome the light of many believers? Will this usher in the beginning of the end? The devil is using people in seats of authority to accelerate the end of times. How? Distorted justice.
Lourdes, this sweeping new law is meant to reshape criminal justice and policing in Illinois.
With the stroke of a pen, Governor Pritzker made the reforms law, calling it a special occasion.
one that remarks a transformative step forward in Illinois' effort to lead the country in dismantling systemic racism.
To get to exchange good for evil, the truth of God for a lie. If he can convince you that through injustice that God is not fair, he'll get you to exchange the truth for a lie. And herein lies the trick of the enemy. They gave up fellowship with the true and living God, believing that they could be God. He caused them to have selfish goals and ambitions, which is rooted in strong, selfish, passionate desire to please self, to have what you see, and to be lifted up in pride. I want to be God. I want to be God, not just over my life, but over the lives of those who are around me.
The centerpiece of the massive law, ending cash bail. Almost everyone would be released from jail while awaiting trial unless a judge decides otherwise.
Calling the justice of victims and injustice to criminals. It is dangerous when you deny the innocent justice while viewing evil as good, while declaring good as evil. The prophet Habakkuk asked God, "Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? Destruction and violence are before me, and everywhere I look, there is strife, and conflict abounds. I am surrounded by people who love to argue and fight." God gives him the answer. The law has become paralyzed, and there is no justice in the courts. The wicked far outnumber the righteous, so that justice has become perverted.
I think that this bill actually makes us, as a state, the public, less safe.
In a statement, House Republican leader Jim Durkin said, the governor's support of House Bill 3653 is an insult to our first responders, law enforcement, and law-abiding citizens of Illinois who want to live free of violence and destruction from the criminal element.
Opponents of this law don't want any change, don't believe there is injustice in the system, and are preying upon fear of change to lie and fearmonger in defense of the status quo.
The reforms were backed by Attorney General Kwame Raoul and Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, both Democrats.
To help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration, Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration to Washington, D.C. Texas will be taking its own unprecedented actions this month to do what no state in America has ever done in the history of this country.
He has ordered the Texas Division of Emergency Management to bus or charter flights and transport immigrants to the nation's capital.
As more and more buses arrive in D.C. from Texas and Arizona with asylum seekers, Mayor Bowser declared a state of emergency in the district today. This coming after Bowser tried twice to get help from the National Guard.
Since April, the buses have been arriving almost daily. According to Mayor Bowser, more than 9,000 asylum seekers have passed through D.C. so far, some of them electing to stay and call D.C. home. After two failed attempts by Bowser to get the White House to approve using the National Guard, Mayor Bowser is now declaring a state of emergency in the nation's capital.
I am declaring a public emergency. I will also be sending emergency legislation to the council that codifies the new migrant services provisions.
So, what's Chicago's answer to this chaos? More cops? More funding? No. It's getting rid of cash bail, because that makes sense. And these problems might start in the city, but it doesn't take long until it spreads to the suburbs. Listen to the mayor of this Chicago suburb tell us what's coming.
As of January 1st, 2023, the following things will go into effect, and people need to be aware of this. It abolishes cash bail for almost every offense. This includes, but isn't limited to, kidnapping, armed robbery, second-degree murder, drug-induced homicide, aggravated DUI, threatening a public official, and aggravated fleeing and eluding. Offenders released on electronic monitoring have to be in violation for 48 hours before law enforcement can act. They could almost drive to Alaska before we can even look for them. It denies victims their constitutional rights. And keep this in mind, businesses and homeowners. Officers will no longer be able to remove trespassers from your residence or your businesses. Someone could decide to live in your shed, and all we can do is give them a ticket. You have to decide what level of force is required to remove them and whether or not it's legal. This is a massive threat to the residents of Oral Park, Cook County, and Illinois.
But Satan is crying, this is the deception of the land. Injustice. It has been this way for the longest, and his voice is the one that is crying the loudest. It is everywhere. It is steeped in sin. That's why when injustice is used, just like what's about to happen in, what is happening in this country, and is about to continue to happen and be worse in January. Basically, the cry of injustice has released into this land millions of people. And I'm not saying that some people are not coming here with the right attitude or the right mindset to fit in the right way by being productive, because some people came here with true goals and ambitions to do good. But there were quite a few in that. I know that there's quite a few in that bunch that came here with the desire to do evil, selfish goals and ambitions. And with that, and new laws and policies that are being put into place because of selfish goals and ambitions, the cry of injustice, that we can't succeed because of what the past was. This is opening up a floodgate of what is about to occur in this nation, and it is steeped in evil. It is a release of sin that is going to abound. What Jesus prophesied in the book of Matthew, that because sin did abound, the love of many will grow cold.
Why even have a government if it takes the side of the bad guys? Because this isn't just a Windy City problem. This is going to be in your backyard soon. We're already seeing it play out in Tennessee. On Wednesday, a maniac live streamed a shooting spree across the whole city, killing 4 and injuring 3. But this lunatic shouldn't have even been on the streets. He was charged with attempted first-degree murder just 2 years ago. Yet the district attorney at the time, Amy Weirich, and the judge, Glenn Wright, signed off on a soft plea deal to let this man loose in the city. What message do you think that sends other criminals across the city? They look at that and they say, I can get away with anything. The same lady who tried to cut her police budget by $50 million 2 years ago has seen a nearly 40% jump in crime in the last 12 months.
Now to an Eyewitness News exclusive. They say they are living in fear, terrorized by a group of kids that comes to their building in the Bronx night after night. Now, these senior citizens say it's gotten so bad, they're afraid to come out after dark. Eyewitness News reporter Lucy Yang has the story from the Morrisania section.
Look in my eyes. I have not slept.
67-year-old Miriam Cintron and her neighbors live in a state of fear. They claim large gangs of young teens have been terrorizing their apartment building in the Bronx all summer, and it's getting worse.
They came at us. They beat us. They broke that stick from that tree there to beat us with the wood. We don't have no body.
People are tired. They need their government to do something. This local reporter summed up what pretty much everyone's feeling.
This is not a joke. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and I know Memphis is tired right now. Yeah, I'm good. I'm with you all. Memphis is tired right now. Bear with me. It's a very nerve-wracking night. It has been a very difficult week.
The people are literally crying out for help. These politicians don't care about their people. We cannot rely on the government anymore for anything.
Does God twist justice? Does the Almighty twist what is right? No. But those who are wicked, and in seats of authority cry injustice for criminals, while they plot in their hearts perversion of the law. Public officials will spread violence throughout the land through perverted justice, setting the guilty free. In January of 2023, new laws will be enacted that will start the deluge of releasing violent, hardened criminals back into the public, making them more emblazoned and fearless, as new laws set the course of freeing them to wreak havoc on more innocent victims. In conjunction with the deluge of criminals from around the world, who have already been pouring into the country every day, they will soon be coming to a neighborhood near you. These reckless actions by those who run this country are a plan devised by Satan himself. This will cause such a cataclysmic force of darkness to be released upon the nations, and it will spread just as rapidly as the pandemic. What Jesus prophesied will happen so fast. Chaos will ensue like the days of Noah, and it will seem as though it appeared out of thin air. Evil will accelerate at such a pace that those who orchestrated the plan will wonder, how did we lose control of this so fast? And like always, they'll look for a scapegoat. Evil will rapidly explode and engulf the nations of the world. Just like God released the flood waters that rapidly engulfed the evil in the days of Noah. Satan believes that somehow, he will defeat God. He has tried to rid the world of God and his ways from the beginning, but God has a different plan. God judged the world back then with a flood that appeared out of nowhere, and no one knew what hit them until it was too late. He will judge the world again, but this time he releases a different kind of flood that will catch the world by surprise. Paul explains it as being so swift, that it will be quicker than blinking an eye. This flood will have the opposite effect on the world, leaving them just as shocked. How? This time, the flood is the sweeping away of his children, ridding the world of his presence and goodness. He removes the restrainer who has been keeping the lawless one at bay, leaving behind the evil ones who rejected his love, to deal with their own evil desires and plans.
And the cry of injustice removes compassion and love. It removes it. It causes people not to be moved with compassion when you cry injustice through an ungrateful heart, with a lack of gratitude. When you blame someone else, like Adam did to Eve, when they stood before God and God asked him the question. He blamed God, really is what he did, which is what is going to end up being at the end of the judgment, the 7 years of the tribulation. All throughout that, it shows that people were ungrateful to God. They didn't show gratitude to God. They didn't appreciate God. But they cried, it's your fault. It's your fault. Injustice is your fault. So I just tell you on today, tune into the voice of the Lord. Let love, peace, joy, faithfulness, gratitude, the ambitions of serving God with a grateful heart because of what he has done in your life be your life's goal, to increase the value of God through a grateful heart. By giving your service and laying down your own ambitions for his. And his goals and his ambitions are not selfish. They have to bring you peace, is what the Bible says. To bring you joy. To bring you love. Cut off the voice of the enemy. Cut off the cry of injustice. The Lord loves you. He loved you enough to give, and every good and perfect gift comes from above. So that good and perfect gift, through appreciation, should be exposed so that he would get glory from out of your life. God bless you.